I say this a lot. So I grew up playing sports, so I've been coached probably ever since I was 5. I've grown up being coached for 20 years, maybe, right? So I've been coached, and now trying to coach players who, I know Troy has a background in sports, the other guys a little bit maybe like when they're, you know, a lot smaller, but it's difficult because they don't have that background in sports, that structure, that discipline. They're young kids who are playing, you know, at the highest level, and they don't really know. I guess it's more of a discipline thing. It's just trying to get them to practice, trying to get them to do individual work. It's difficult for the most part. Worst thing about coaching, I think it goes back to like they've never had a coaching figure, right? Someone of authority. Dad, that's a little different, but they haven't had that like authoritarian figure when it comes to competing. So when you say something, they're not always taking it in, right? Like you gotta be, and it's hard because you don't wanna be forceful, you don't wanna raise your voice, because they haven't dealt with that before in a competitive environment. So that for me has probably been the most difficult aspect. Early on, it was more of a respect thing. That has come along a long way. The respect thing, when I speak, they listen. I have no problem with them disagreeing. I think that's great, right? That back and forth, because everyone has their own twist on things when it comes to Siege or competing in general. I like to think that I have a better understanding of what it takes to win and compete at the highest level. They might have a better understanding of the intricacies of what Siege is, right? So that back and forth is always good.
So during like a technical timeout, are you more about the discipline side or are you more about the game?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Sometimes I'll see something that they don't see, right? Because I'm on the outside in. You know, they're playing, they're hearing things, but maybe they're not registering it. And for me, I can hear everything. I can also see things they may not notice. Well, I actually just picked up photography. I've been doing, just because I've been traveling a lot, I figured I've always wanted to do photography. I finally had like the disposable income to invest in a setup. So I've been doing photography. Gaming is actually taking a backseat, surprisingly enough. I don't have time for it. We're practicing, like I said, 6 to 7 hours a day. By the time that's done, I'm toast, right? I don't want to, there's no good games out right now anyway, so I'm not gaming, but I like to watch sports too. Watch a ton of sports, baseball in particular, and photography recently. Now that I think about it, every single LAN event that we've been to, we haven't had to deal with it because we had Sao Paulo, which is like I think a 2 or 3 hour back and forth. I'm not too sure what it was. We had Montreal, we had Atlantic City, we had DreamHack Austin. This would have been the only event that we had to deal with it, but we boot camped in Copenhagen for 10 days. So the first 3 days, or first 3 or 4 days in Copenhagen were rough. Me and our film guy were waking up at like 5 in the morning, and we had stuff to do. It wasn't bad, but after like 3 or 4 days, we kind of acclimated ourselves. Wasn't too bad. This is my first time in Europe, so from what I've heard, I've had 2 of like the better places to go when you visit Europe. During the event, so like while we're in Paris, there's rarely any time to do anything outside of prep. In Copenhagen though, Copenhagen was absolutely amazing, and probably going back eventually for myself on my own free time. So Europe's been great. I don't know if I could really compare it to America because it's different. There's a whole different vibe. It's hard to, I'd probably have to do more Europe to have a better understanding of the differences, and that's a tough question. I respect Tommy from G2 a lot. I think he was kind of at the forefront of coaching. I'm more of a personality, like I've just always been that way, like very outgoing. I put myself out there, I like to be funny. So I've had more traction as far as like popularity goes, but as far as like a coach who would kind of want to pick their mind a little bit, Tommy, I want to see what he's all about. It's hard to know what the other coaches are doing, right? it's easier to know what the other players are doing because you get to watch them play, you know, day in and day out. But coaches, it's different. I love to sit down and actually talk about coaching with them.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Great talk.
Yeah.